All right, I'm here with another deck tech today. I wanted to do one on Abzan lands. So obviously we're playing Strip Mine in a lands type deck, and it's more of a mid-range deck than it is, say, a combo lands deck. So I put up Doran, the Siege Tower here. I think he's kind of the perfect example of what we're doing with this deck, and play a cheap threat that gets the job done, cause some disruption with something like a strip mine. The points in the deck are 3 for an emerald, 3 for a jet, 1 for a crop rotation, and 3 for a strip mine. So, as it's an Abzan mid-range deck with a land sub-theme, the strip mine and crop rotation are going to be an important part of your plan, but I would say the more important part is, say, the Mox Jet and the Mox Emerald, which accelerate you into your threats. I want to do a quick section as well on, say, the newer cards in the deck. I thought this would be kind of cool to do. So the last time I played this deck, before I've updated it here, was in probably August. Since then, I obviously have taken a lot of cards out and changed some other cards. These are the new cards. 3 of them are these werewolves, and 2 of them are, a removal spell, discard spell. I'll talk about the werewolves a little bit later. Dread Fugue, the newest card, I'm really excited to play as a really good early game discard spell and a pretty good late game discard spell. And then Prismatic Ending. We're a 3-color deck. I didn't splash for anything else. I like Prismatic Ending for a lot of the early answers that we're doing. So what's kind of the game plan of this deck? What we're wanting to do is use some of our fast mana with our Moxen or our Mox Diamond, our Elves, with early disruption like Dread Fugue, to pump out some threats. Night of the Reliquary, Doran Siege Tower, here's some good examples, and then locking them out with something like Winter Orb or the Strip Mine package, things like that. So how are we achieving that? Well, for one, you have to start with our fastest mana we have: the Mox Diamond, Mox Jet, Mox Emerald. These are turn 1 accelerants, really good. They help us get everything earlier. Just as all these elves, we have a bunch of elves, a couple non-elves, the birds, but all of these threats we're trying to do, or not threats, but all of these accelerators are what we're trying to do in turn 1. Just get something out there, get out ahead of our opponent. We have a lot of discard in this deck. Typically, you would see something like the Duress, the Inquisition, the Thoughtseize. We're also adding in Gerard's Verdict, which discards 2, Hymn to Turok, which discards 2, and Collective Brutality, which is flexible, has a couple modes. So 7 discard spells here. I did have another one that I was playing earlier, which was Humiliate. I've taken that out for the Dread Fugue. Now, kind of some of our mid-range threats I've put up here. Something like the Lovestruck Beast. It's 3 mana 5/5. We have a lot of elves that can let it attack. We can also just play a Heart's Desire. Archon of Emeria. Each player can't cast more than 1 spell each turn, and then non-basic lands your opponents control enter tapped. Works well with our Winter Orb plan. We also have Thalia. We have something like Questing Beast, Vigilance, Death Touch, Haste, hard to block, prevents damage from being prevented. It's a funny sentence. And it can kill planeswalkers as well. Doran the Siege Tower, really beefy guy for 3 mana, and Dryad of the Elysian Grove, kind of like more of our value creatures. Play extra lands from our graveyard or whatever with Ramanap Excavator, as well as fixing our mana. It also works with Prismatic Ending, so if you want to cast something for 5. Now here's where I kind of want to talk about some of the new threats that I think are really cool in this deck. I've put in these 3 werewolves. So if you've seen my other videos, you've seen the Graveyard Trespasser before. Ward, discard a card. When it enters, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard. If it was a creature card, each opponent loses 1, you gain 1. The Brutal Cathar, similar, in that it's a werewolf for 3 mana. It's a 2/2. When it enters, it exiles a creature until it leaves. And on the other side, it's the 3/3 first strike with Ward, discard a card. And the Outland Liberator, a replacement for Khazali Pride Mage. It is a 2/2 with a naturalized type effect. On the other side, it's a 3/3 that when it attacks, it destroys an artifact or enchantment. So the reason I like these werewolves here, in addition to something like an Archive of Emeria, is they're going to flip. And they're going to flip, I think, fairly easily because we're playing things like Strip Mine, stop your opponent from playing spells because they have no mana. Something like Winter Orb, well, they're going to be spending a lot of time untapping. And I think that is a really cool aspect to this deck where you can force your opponent to, be locked out, be unable to play 2 spells to flip these guys back into their weaker sides. And that's why I've decided to try them out in this build here. So some of our land tutors, or the land package, I guess, here is, Crop Rotation and Silver Scrying. These search for land cards, Knight of the Reliquary searches as well. And then the Crucible, Life from the Loam, Ramanap Excavator, Titania, Protector of Argoth. These are all ways to get lands from your graveyard, put them into play again, sacrifice them again if it's a Strip Mine or whatever, and just keep your opponent under a lock. Titania, if you haven't played with her before, she's fantastic. When she enters, you can return a land card from your graveyard to the battlefield, which could be a fetch land. If it is a fetch land, for example, whenever a land you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, create a 5/3 elemental creature token. Strip Mine also works very well. As you destroy your opponent's land, did you get a 5/3 for your troubles? So I really like this card in this deck. I think it's very good in lands decks, and I would consider this as your lands package. I mean, aside from the lands, this is the lands part of your deck. So these are the actual lands that we're kind of trying to focus on. Strip Mine, Wasteland, probably pretty high up there as things you want to tutor for. Nurturing Peatland. It's great because you can just keep sacrificing it to draw a card. We play 3 of these, Horizon Canopy, Silent Clearing. And I also have a Dark Depths, Thespian Stage combo in the deck where we're just able to accelerate out pretty quick, easily tutor for these lands, and then sacrifice, make a 20/20. So that's the deck. That's Abzan lands. It's mostly, I would say, a mid-range deck with a land sub-theme. I think it's very powerful. I really like a lot of the lines it has, and I think the coolest thing, the reason that I'm excited to play it again, to pick it up again over a more dedicated lands deck or something, is that Winter Orb, Archon of Emeria, and the Werewolf lock. It's not really a lock, but it's I think an interesting thing to do with your werewolves. Force your opponents to make your werewolf slip, run them over with your big powerful creatures. So hope you guys like the deck. I think it is a really cool one. It's definitely more geared to mid-range, and I really like mid-range right now. I think it's well positioned against a lot of the decks that are now coming back in because there's less Oracle going around. So give it a try. Let me know what you think. I'll be posting another video next week. It's probably going to be an Allurin one because I want to. It's kind of a more memey build, but you'll see next week hopefully. That one will probably be a physical deck, just because I've already sleeved most of those cards up since I've played it more recently than this Abzan Lands deck. Thanks again for watching, guys, and have a good one.